Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another awesome episode of On the Throttle with Jacqui Van Ham and my buddy Josh Strokey out here bringing you all of the breaking news going on out here in motorcycles and power sports. And today, woo, do we have a show for you. And just as a side note, Josh, this is episode 96. We're creeping up on our 100th episode here at On the Throttle. We've got special guests and all sorts of fun stuff planned for that episode. So if you are not, make sure you go ahead and hit that notifications on, subscribe, like, follow, do all of the things and all of the stuff. We are out here on the Facebooks and YouTubes every single week. Now, for this week's show, let's go ahead and jump on in for my neck of the woods. We're going to be talking about the fastest side-by-side released on the market this week, and the ORCAs are coming! Josh, what do you got going on in your neck of the woods?
It sounds like the orcas are coming just as fast as the stuff from Triumph, actually. So we're going to talk a little bit about Triumph and their teaser, and then we've got another teaser from a company that's from a country that we normally aren't talking about. Well, we do talk about it some, but it's not a motorcycle country, but it is. So that's enough of a teaser, right?
That was a great teaser. I love that you're all about the tease this episode, Josh. So we're all going to have to wait for those teases and all of this news after this word from our sponsor. Woo! Thanks to the folks at Pengrade rocking us out here right at the beginning of the show. So for my very first story, let's go ahead and jump on in. The folks at Can-Am, also known as BRP, have released a handful of side-by-sides this week, and they are awesome. Josh, look at that side-by-side on your screen.
Yeah.
I love the look of these, and they are just absolutely stacked. This is not your grandpa's dune buggy. This is a dune dang, because this bad dog is absolutely the fastest side-by-side on the market currently. Let's go ahead and jump on in to this story. This is the 2024 Maverick R. BRP is changing the landscape of the recreational side-by-side with the announcement of the all-new Maverick R. This is built to challenge the status quo and blast through performance barrier. BRP hopes the 2024 Can-Am Maverick R lineup will forever change the off-road scene. This is coming in a handful of different trim levels, by the way. Designed from the rider down, the Maverick R touts the 240 horsepower engine. Woo! Dual clutch transmission. Unrivaled suspension travel, it says, and a suite of enhanced technology take the rider experience to the next level. The heartbeat of Maverick R comes from an industry-defining 240 horsepower 999T Rotax turbocharged inline 3-cylinder 4-stroke fuel-injected engine, putting the power to the ground faster and more efficiently than ever before. The Maverick R utilizes the first-ever Rotax off-road 7-speed DCT design, automatic or optionally controllable by paddle shifter. Woo! I do love a paddle shift. The potent package provides the Maverick R power to displacement ratio to leave the competition in the dust. This comes with a handful of ride modes: normal, sport, and sport plus, to put the control in the driver's hands. This has, what else is going on with this? This has a revolutionary power. The revolutionary power plant needs a revolutionary chassis to handle the power. The Maverick R features a high-strength dual-phase tube steel V-shaped chassis and cage for increased strength, rigidity, and optimized vehicle performance. To keep up with the demands of the high-performance engine and chassis, the Maverick R has a class-leading vehicle footprint measuring 77 inches wide and a 108 wheelbase for optimal stability and handling. This has 25 inches of travel up front, 26 in the rear, and 17 inches of ground clearance. An unbeatable combination of smart shocks, the newest Fox Shocks live valve Gen 3 technology, coupled with Fox 2.5 Podium and 3.0 Podium shocks, keeps the Maverick R smoothly tracking across the most treacherous of desert chop. Thanks to Fox's patented electronic main post and base valve, the Maverick R has 6 times greater compression tuning range than any other vehicle on the market, making more than 200 real-time suspension adjustments per second with the ability to change from soft to hard valve settings in less than 200ths of a second. The Maverick R suspension package inspires confidence with every brake, acceleration, and corner. This absolutely stunning machine on your screen right now. The premium package on this, like I said, there's several different levels of trim. The Maverick R has a 10.25-inch touchscreen display. It offers an intuitive user interface with vehicle performance information, driving stats, navigation via the BRP Go app, music, phone connectivity, and front and rear cameras. Look at this absolutely incredible machine, Josh. I love the looks of this. This to me just absolutely means the business. And like I said, there is an R, there is an X, there is an RS package. There's all sorts of different trim levels. You can go head on over to the Can-Am BRP website to go check out all of those details. There they are on the screen. That's the entire family of lineup. Josh, what do you think about this awesome side-by-side from the folks at Can-Am?
What's interesting about it is, to me, I mean, first off, a lot of these high performance side by sides have really turned into, we're just going to call them what they are, miniature trophy trucks that you can go out and buy. And that's very much what something like this is geared towards, geared for. This isn't necessarily going to be as good in the woods as it's going to be in the desert. And I can understand why. I do see some interesting suspension setups on this, especially back in that first slide. That upper control arm setup, and I'm curious, it looks like it's just a standard ball joint, which I found interesting from the approach angles that they've got there, and that it's going to have enough variability in the ball joint to be able to move through that. So I find that interesting, but to me, I mean, that top end isn't carrying much load. It's the bottom end that's carrying all that load. The rear trailing arm setup is obviously very traditional. The fact that they went with a dual clutch transmission in this, I also find very interesting. Most of these, the shock of having a mechanical connection like that is a lot for a transmission to bear, especially when you've got 240 horsepower. And that's in a lot of cases why most of them have been torque converter setups, as that'll take some of that shock load. The trade-off with that is something like in those setups, you don't have that throttle response. If you need to pick the front end up, you don't necessarily quite have that. These will. So Can-Am's really going out on a limb here with a lot of cool stuff. I mean, the manual-ish transmission, that's a page from Yamaha straight out of the book. I'm excited to see how it works, excited to see how it lasts. And of course, when you've already got 240 horsepower out of the factory, I'm sure people are going to be pushing these to 300 plus in no time. So very cool that they do it. It's 240 horsepower with a warranty. Go have fun, people.
Yeah, 240 horsepower, turbocharged triple engine. I am here for it. Yes, please. And yeah, the minute I saw these photos, this is clearly just like an epic desert beast. This screams Baja to me. This screams desert racing. This screams Mint 400. This screams a heck of a good time to me. This looks like a
Yes.
load of fun. So I'm here for it, man. Who knew I was such a side by side gal? But Can-Am has made me a convert for sure. Josh, what you got going on in your neck of the woods?
So have we talked about the Triumph dirt bike that probably might be coming out someday soon? I'm going to talk about it some more. So this week, Triumph released some of the information about the engine, and this, just sitting here looking at it, is an interesting engine. There's a few little features on the outside of it that I noticed right off the bat. One of which is there's a lot of smoothness in that bottom end. There's not much outside bracing. I don't know what they did on the inside, anything like that. It's got a unique, and I guess I would say very Triumph look to it. Something else that we can tell from this is obviously a dual overhead cam setup as you look at the top of the cylinder head there. But so this 250cc motocrosser is officially a 250cc motocrosser, but it's not just a frame that you have to throw in the backyard like a boomerang. This actually has a motor, so I'm excited to see what they hook the rest of it up to. There are unfortunately no other real specs on this, no other power numbers. But in the video that Triumph released, you do get to hear it on the dyno, and it does have a fairly distinct sound to it. So I found that kind of interesting. Now, something that I didn't find as interesting is they talked about the flexible power delivery, and the quote that I'm going to pull is, "You either have good low end or good top end, whichever you prefer, but I feel this engine gives you both," is what Ricky Carmichael said. For me, those of us that understand engine dynamics and can read between the lines, you can have low end or you can have top end. You cannot have both. To me, what they've tuned this for probably is for that mid range power. And hopefully, it's got enough lungs and enough port that it can run some on the overrun still, all the way up to the rev limiter. So there's a lot of that marketing stuff in there where you're like, okay, this that they know better on this, but it's going to be interesting to see. The thing that was teased in this that I find so interesting was they talked about how this will be in numerous models. So that to me is a big
Mm.
key, because obviously Triumph has talked about how they are going to have their motocross racer, and there's pretty much it's already been stated that they are also going to have some street legal versions of these. Now, the question that this really begs to ask is, does this end up in other street bikes? Kawasaki has their 250. Suzuki has their 250. Honda had their 250. I mean, so everyone had their 250. Does this get another top end to maybe bring it up to a 300 or so? And does this also become a sport bike, or does this become a city bike? Or, I mean, there's all sorts of possibilities with a small bore motor like this. So I'm interested to see if this was designed just as a motocross motor, or are they designing it with the intent of the fact that there's other things that can come later from this? That is going to be very interesting from this. The next drop from Triumph is September 5th. Um, there is some inklings out there, and I have read and heard and seen that there is a chance that we may get to see the full bike and possibly even get to see it ridden. Who knows? It may be a cloud of dust. But to me, it's the big interesting thing that I want to go back to, and I want to ask you about on this, Jacqui, is, do you think that this motor will end up someplace else besides just in a motocross frame that ends up on the street in terms of a dual sport? What are your thoughts?
Well, I feel like, because I've had a couple minutes to think about this. All
Yeah.
joking aside, Josh and I love to bust on this story, because this has been going on for 500 years. So yes, I think the long and short of this, but I'm gonna make it long anyway, is that yes, this is going to end up in another bike, I believe, because this has been going on for so long. There's been so much research and development going into this project. There's been so much money
Yeah.
going into this project. I think for it to just go into a dirt bike, um, that is questionable sales wise, that is totally
Right.
uncharted territory for them, I think is would be a real waste. I think that they would be thinking bigger picture than that. I also, approximately 500 years ago, was friends with some of the folks at Triumph, and they were discussing doing a very small displacement city bike, a la the Triumph Cub. They were trying to revamp that idea and bring a small bike to the market. But then at that time, everybody was all gaga over big bikes. And now we've kind of taken
Yep.
a little bit of a pivot, and people are really interested in smaller bikes again. So I do feel like this will end up in a street bike. I do feel like this will end up in some sort of like city cruiser, city commuter type bike.
Yeah.
I Obviously, this will end up in a motocross bike, because that's what they've been talking about for 500 years. This, I believe, is going to be going into possibly a motocross team. I think that they are going to be racing with this.
Yeah.
If And then, to me, if they're
That
going
is
to
the
do a
point of it.
250, where's the 450? Because that's
It's
motocross.
it's it's not going to be far behind. I think, and to me, I think they are the 250 class is much more. I don't want to say competitive, but it is much easier to get into. The 450 class, everyone talks about how those bikes are currently just unrideable,
Yeah.
especially on the short tracks. So this is the spot to enter in. Plus, I think, as we talked about, there's going to be a market for this motor. So I agree with you on that. There's going to be a market for this somewhere, someplace, somehow, and that's why they're at the 250 instead of a 450 first. It kind of makes sense, even though the fact that it's taken 400 years. I'm still wondering if we see this bike in our lifetimes, but we'll find out.
I mean, who knows, Josh? It may or may
Right.
not happen. It's been kind of a long haul for this thing. Yeah, I did go cruise around the internet. I did see this story when it popped up this week, and there was an awful lot of chatter on the internet about it. People got an awful lot to say. If you got something to say about this engine, make sure you go ahead and throw it in the comments out there
Yeah.
watching at home. Josh and I always go back through and love to read and hear what you guys have to say. So make sure you peek in and say, hey, I am going to say I'm a little surprised it's not a twin. I understand why. I understand the weight, the weight of a twin engine versus a single.
Correct.
Going with a thumper to me is a choice. I don't know if it would have been my choice. And then I also have some concerns about the street rideability of it being a thumper. But that's just me.
One
That's just me.
one thing that I'll go with on that, twins are so difficult, that high RPM, to get to pass emissions. So to have it as a thumper like this, especially as a 250 in the lower RPM, it's going to be easier for it to pass emissions. And it's still, I mean, it
That's
is
true.
only a 250, but so yeah, it is. It really is going to be interesting to see where this ends up.
All right. So with that, let's go ahead and continue on for my next story. We're going to be talking about 2023 is the summer of orcas, but we're all going to have to wait because we've got another word from our mid-show partner.
Showchrome is a leader in powersports accessories for 2, 3, and 4 wheels. For over 42 years, our R&D team has created innovative products for riders. We're releasing over 80 new products in 2023, featuring exciting products for Honda Goldwing, Can-Am Ryker and Can-Am Spyder, Polaris Slingshot, side-by-side and UTVs, and Ultra Guard covers for many power sports makes and models. Make sure you're staying in the loop. Sign up to receive new product releases at showchromeusa.com today.
Thanks to the folks at Showchrome. So, as I mentioned at the top of the program just a hot second ago, 2023 is the summer of orcas. And not those orcas, not these guys, although it's also been the summer of these orcas. It is the summer of the Tiaga ORCA. That is right, the Tiaga ORCA has been released. If you are not aware, electric EV mobility is not just limited to the land, my friends. This is electric PWC, personal watercraft. And this just landed within the past week or so. This is from the folks at Tiaga. It is called the ORCA, as you can see by the slide on your screen. It bears a bit of a resemblance to an orca, and this looks like a heck of a good time. I have been waiting for folks to take EV mobility to the water, and indeed it is here. Let's go ahead and jump on into the story. This is the folks at Tiaga releasing this very cool, the ORCA line of 100% electric PWCs. This is ORCA Performance, Tiaga Motors' newest fully electrical personal watercraft. This new ORCA delivers up to 160 horsepower, instant torque, and superior agility even in rough waters. After years of careful research and development, as well as advanced engineering, the all-new ORCA Performance emerges with groundbreaking features, a revolutionary sheet-molded composite hull, an enhanced powertrain, and Tiaga's cutting-edge 6th-generation tractive unit, delivering the smooth, controlled, and silent ride you desire at the exhilarating speeds you crave. This beautiful machine, like I said, just came to be within the last week or so. The press releases are all over the place. This is coming in at just under $20,000. This is going to be $19,490 US doll hairs. Josh, one of the first electric personal watercrafts out here on the marketplace. What do you got to say about that?
I mean, you knew it was only a matter of time before someone was going to shove a battery pack and electric motor in here. There are all sorts of advantages to it. I totally get that. The thing that's tough is one of the things that make electrics so wonderful is the regenerative braking. You obviously do not have that in the water. The other part that makes it so difficult with these is the fact that, I mean, boat motors work, anything marine works very, very differently than something on land does, because it's always, always, always under a heavy load. The fact that they've come up with a design that works with this, I think this has really got to be something where it's in conjunction with the hull design in order to get it up on plane very quickly and have that pump be very efficient instead of very performance oriented. So those are the things that I see with it. The cool things that I see with it, though, too, is it uses a J1772 charger. It recharges in about, with a quick charge, it recharges in about 4 hours, if I remember correctly. After seeing that, they say you can get up to 2 hours worth of usage on this. To me, this is the ideal. Keep it in the shed, drop it in the water, and go down the river, go to your favorite spot to eat, go hang out, go do the type of stuff like that. Charge it while you eat, whatever, then ride back for the hour and a half, whatever you need. It's not an all-day PWC cruiser, but I do think that someone is still going to be able to have a lot of fun with these. The other thing is this is the first entry, as you mentioned. These will get better with time. So this already looks like a good time. I think the next iterations are going to be that much better. So to get on board with something like this, I dig it.
Yeah, I think it's really, really neat. And like I said, it's part of a lineup of electric PWC from the folks at Tiaga. They've got more on deck. They've got more coming. I think it's super cool. I love it. And I'm going to go ahead and just say out here that I really enjoy electric mobility. Josh, you know I do. If you watch the show, you know I do.
Yep.
But I really like it for the silent factor. I like it because it's quiet. You know, you can go out here, you can actually like hear what's happening out there on the water. I love e-bikes out in the woods and out on the trail for that exact same reason. I'm not one of those, you know, loud pipes save lives kind of gal, and I don't think the PWC applies either. So I like that it's quiet. That's just me though. But yeah, I think this is super cool, and I figured we would go ahead and chat about it today. Now, Josh, what you got going on for your second story?
Sure. So we've got a teaser from the Himalayans. Well, no, it's actually just a Himalayan teaser. This is from Royal Enfield. And what they did is they gave you a video that it just started out with coordinates. That's what they showed you. And you're like, okay, so those of us that are obviously curious, we decided to plug those in. And the coordinates are Manali, the city in northern India, imagine that, where the 411 Himalayan broke cover. So they're going to do the same thing with this one. So this is an update to it. To me, it's always funny when I hear an update from Royal Enfield, just because of the fact you always think Royal Enfield doesn't update anything for 50 years or 70 years or whatever the last cycle was for their bikes. So this is, it's big, the fact that they're updating it so soon. You get to hear the engine in this. It definitely has a very different sound than the current Himalayan. There's a few photos here, like this one that you see on the screen right now. We can get some information from this. First off, there's been these out in the wild. Seeing this, we know that we're looking at inverted forks. The other thing that you look at is when you see the front tire in relation to the fender there, you're pretty sure that this isn't a huge travel bike. Also, this is another terrible teaser that they have, but we're also realized that we're looking at a non-floating single rotor front brake setup on this. So there's a few things in here that tell us, okay, this is going to be traditional Royal Enfield, where I don't want to say it's cost cutting, but it's more utilitarian and more like, let's keep things in an area where people can afford them. Let's gear this bike towards the audience that we want it to go towards. Now, the really cool things are that some information that we do know is that this new 450 should be around 40 horsepower, which is up almost 100% from the 23 that the last tractor, we're going to call it the tractor, had. So there is a ton of speculation that this bike will debut at EICMA in the flesh, and I'm pretty sure that's true. That's what everyone's saying out there. I'm excited for this. I think they realized the first generation of Himalayan was just a mountain goat, and I think they're going to stick with that and just go with something that's, we're looking at liquid cooling probably on this, so they're going to keep it. It's going to get a little more complex, but they're going to keep it simple. They're going to keep it accessible. In fact, I don't even want to say inexpensive.
Yeah.
They're going to keep it simple. They're going to keep it accessible, and they're going to keep it bulletproof. So that's my thing with that. I'm assuming that this is another one that you're probably looking forward to, Jacqui, especially with the low seat height.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and you know that's why. I got to ride the Himalayan way in the Wayback Machine before it really was launched, and I love that it, of course, had a little bit lower seat height. It felt like a dirt bike with just a little bit more manners to it. I really like the Himalayan. It has sold very well for the folks at Royal Enfield, so
Yes.
why not extend on it? We have been waiting for another version of this bike for, it feels like 500 years. During COVID time, it may as well have been 500 years.
Correct.
I thought that by all rumors, it was going to get bonked up and turn into the larger displacement 650s that are now also part of their lineup. I am waiting for that machine to happen from the folks at Royal Enfield, but a 450 is a good start. So I'm curious to see what's going on over there. I'm curious to see what this finally looks like. But yes, you're absolutely right. Their whole thing is that it is a pretty darn bulletproof type bike, or if something does happen, parts are inexpensive and pretty accessible, and that it's at a great price point. That's what Royal Enfield is all about. You know, they know their market, they know their lane, they're staying in their lane, they're doing their thing. It's always got some nice retro styling to it, but with a little tiny touch of modernity, and that's how they do over there. That's how they roll, pun intended. So that's going to be it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Episode 96. We are on the way to 100. As I mentioned at the top of the program, our 100th episode, we've got some special guests and cool interviews and all sorts of fun stuff going on. I've heard a rumor even about some giveaways and things happening. So make sure you hit notifications on, click like, click subscribe, give us a like over at the Facebooks, give us a subscribe over on the YouTube. You are not going to want to miss it. And we'll see you guys next time. Ride safe, everybody.